We met several years ago. Actually, what happened was, I think it's a funny story. So I went to Hajj by myself about 7 or 8 years, 6 years ago. I don't know. 6 years ago. All right. So came out of a nice point in my life and decided, you know what, that's it. I'm ready. Let's do a Hajj. So I just wanted to go by myself. I really let things ride for a bit, and I was good young age. So I was like, let's do it by yourself. I didn't want to go with a group. I just wanted that kind of personal momentum, that personal ibadah to be there. So I went for Hajj, ibadah is worship. Sorry, if I say a word in Arabic, just raise your hand and I'll say it in English, because I have a tendency to do that really badly. So I went for Hajj, and I'm by myself. I had a lot of things I needed to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me for. So I really went for that reason. And there was the group with Imam Salimi, and there was a group of older people there, and lots of couples and stuff like that. But I didn't really know anyone too well in that group. What ended up happening was, there was a couple in that group. And on Arafah, if anyone's been to Hajj, MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, barakallah. Inshallah, we all go next year.
Ameen.
So on Arafah, I'm like, Allah, where I've been, and I'm letting it all out. And I went somewhere hidden. I didn't want people, so the tents are really close. I went in between two tents. There's maybe a foot here and a foot here, and I'm I'm gonna do my thing, right? All of a sudden we get onto the plane, we get onto the it's time to leave. Someone jumps out and finds me there, oh, it's time to go. All right, thanks for the privacy, right? But anyway, so it's time to go. So then when we get back to Toronto, I get close to this couple and stuff like that, and then I find out that I met actually Hani at the airport on the way back. So when we landed back in Toronto, that couple was there, and they're like, oh, this is our daughter and other daughter and son. So they introduced me to the family. I was like, yeah, Assalamualaikum. I just came back from Hajj. I'm not thinking. I didn't actually even remember her being there. So I don't remember her being there. So a year later, or whatever, then 2 thanks a lot. 2 years later, I'll let her tell the story from there. But it kind of started, discussions started to happen and things like that. And, there's some good lessons that actually came out of this. Good things for for the sisters actually to hear in this story that you guys will really, really love, inshallah. And what kind of happened next? What do you take from there?
So my parents went to Hajj, and they were in this group, and they came back with these stories of this guy, and they had all these stories to say about him and his character. At that point, I wasn't ready to consider it information, so I didn't think about it. But I remember noticing him at the airport. I remember thinking everyone's coming off the plane, they just came from Hajj, and I'm oh, and he was so jolly and bouncing down the ramp that you come from, and I just remembered noticing him at that time, and I had seen him on and off throughout those 2 years. And then when it came time that I was ready, I kind of thought about him, he was kind of stuck in my head, and I was like, what about this guy? And I debated it for a long time, and I was like, God, should I approach this guy? It's so for South Asian people, for a girl to approach a guy, it's completely taboo. And
right?
I was like, do I do it or do I not? My dad's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Do it by yourself. I don't want to get involved. And so it was Ramadan 2008, and I was praying tahajjud, and I was I'm just gonna pray istikhara and figure out what to do, because I was really confused, and my parents were pressuring me with proposals, and I kind of had him stuck in my head, although I had never really had a conversation with him, so I'm why do I even, why is he in my head?
At this point, I still don't even know she exists. I don't know if she is or not, alright?
And so I prayed my istikhara and whatever, and it's tahajjud, it's the 27th night, and I sit up from my sujood, and he walks into the mosque right in front. So you can see the men. And it was empty because it was tahajjud, so I just saw him walk in, and I was like, maybe I should talk to him. So that kind of pushed me to approach him. So it was one of the things we're gonna get into later, but definitely, girls, if there's someone that notice, don't be afraid to be the Khadija in the situation, because and had I not, he never, he still, when my friend, the mutual friend went, he's like, oh yeah, I know Sadiq, his daughter, he's she has 3, like which one is it? And he still had no idea who I was, even though we had
Yeah.
conversed, like met each other, and I thought we were having like meaningful moments and there was nothing. So that's just a lesson for you guys. If you see someone of deed and of character, and for me especially someone that my father was taken with, my father's not easily impressed, that stands out to you, then don't be shy in those things. There's nothing wrong with it. So we kind of wanted to start, there was a couple of topics that were given to us, which was, is the right age and how do you know if you're ready for...
Can I just ask, like, what did you exactly say? How do you approach it? Like,
When I say...
Hold it, leave that for the end. You're gonna like it. Very good question.
I'll answer your question first in the Q&A. But I just want to get through the stuff that they gave us. So we want to talk to you guys about self-preparation. The first step, if you're even thinking marriage or you're approaching the age of marriage or you're there, is self-preparation. Before you can even consider bringing someone else into your life or speaking to someone else and asking them what they can offer you, you have to know where you stand, what you have to offer somebody else, and what you really want. And you might think you know what you want until you actually start talking to people. Like some people just go into the process of talking to another person and you're like, wow, I really didn't think that I would want someone like this, and I had never thought about it like this, and which is fine, it's all part of the learning process, but before you even start that, you really should go through sort of a self-reflection process and understand yourself, because for some people, we all need certain things, and you have to know that, because the other person's going to ask you, what do you need from me? And it can be things like, if you know you're a person who can't live without a vacation every year, right or wrong, whether that's something that you think you should be needing or not, if it's something you know you need every year, you have to be honest with yourself about that. Or if you know that you could never, ever, under any circumstances whatsoever, live with your in-laws, you have to know that about yourself. If you know that you want to be a career woman and that you want to work with children regardless of the situation, or the opposite, that you want to be a stay-at-home wife regardless of the financial sacrifices, you have to know that about yourself. So that's a really important step before you even get involved in thinking who you're going to marry, is knowing yourself. Do you want to...
Okay. Some of you might walk out of this talk with more knowledge, or some of your questions answered, and some of you may leave with more questions than you had even coming in. What we're trying to give to you is that questions need to come out. That's the important thing. A question is important because it teaches you something. So if you walk out and you think you understand everything about this beast, you probably don't. The first question you ask them, so what are you looking for? Like, I don't know. Or the guy's like, oh, this is what I want. I want her like this. I want her like that. Listen, first of all, you draw a box or you could leave it in a circle. Don't draw one. You don't know what you want. It's very hard, except for those like big red herrings. So those are the things you look out for. What you're kind of, what's meaningful between you and another person, right? What's meaningful to you? Looking out for number one, people, that's the first thing they decide to let go because they're like infatuated with the other person's looks or their personality or their stature or that other people look up to them. Oh, this person, everyone looks up to this person, or this brother's the khatib all the time, or this sister, she's all the sisters ask her. So that stature that builds up, and then that blinds you from the things that are important to you. When you give up those things that are important to you, you're going at it in the wrong way. So questions are a good thing to ask. And you should know what's important to you, okay? But you're not going to kind of understand everything. That's okay. That's what the talking process brings about. So as you talk with somebody, you're going to, the funny thing is you actually learn about yourself, really what you want. I had this brother and he's like, all right, hook me up with a girl. I'm like, all right, fine. Let him sit down with a girl and let him talk to. I'm like, what are you looking for? He's like, just a good Muslim girl. Like, all right, fine, no problem. Pick one out of the box, but just kidding. Yeah, right? And I hooked him up. I'm like, guys, sit down. You don't have a discussion. We're in another room. They're talking. He's like, oh, after the discussion, after 2, he's like, I'm not really feeling well. I'm like, all right, okay, fine. Let me try another. We'll try another sister. The other sister came out. She's like, yeah, fine. They met. They talked. Everything was, And then he's like, no, again, I'm not, he wasn't interested, it wasn't happening. I'm like, bro, I know what you're looking for. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're looking for this, and these are 3 things you're looking for in a girl that you want right away. He's like, yeah. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? Like, why didn't you like sit down, do some analysis? But he didn't know. But I like read it because after the first two girls, I understood the similarities in them and understood what he was looking for. And then the third girl, he's like talking to her now for like a long time. Like now it looks like inshallah going to happen, but I mean like, it moves along that way, right? So just kind of take some time, like Connie said, take some time and understand who you are. What are you looking for? Are you looking for an outgoing person or a quiet person? Are you looking for someone that can, like in a crowd of people, you'll hear them out, like they're funny, they're joke, they're laugh, they're funny people. Or are you looking for a quiet person who you won't see them? No one knows who they are. Those things are important. Are you looking for somebody that will, like take you out every week? Are you looking for Friday night at the movies or Saturday morning fudger? Sometimes, or both. But there's personality traits, right? You have to look for what's important to you. Like this the whole question about dating. Like white people, like non-Muslims, they ask, like, oh, how do you get to know the girl? I'm like, dating does not teach you anything about a girl. Tell me what it teaches her. And I have this girl that I work with. Her name is Angelica. She works for our company. The non-Muslim girl. And she's dating. I'm like, Angelica, I'm telling you, you will not learn anything from dating. Don't do it. Become Muslim, I'll hook you up with a nice guy. So I'm like, dating teach you not what does it teach you? How much butter they want on their popcorn? That's what it teaches you. It doesn't teach you anything else, right? It doesn't teach you who they are, their personality, because everyone's all flowery when they're dating. You just see each other during the day, right? But when you actually sit down with somebody, and I told her in Islam, like when we sit down with a guy or a girl, like when we sit down, we're talking about marriage. Right? When you date, it's about sometimes you don't know the guy's motives. What's he dating me for? He just wants to, be bad with me or something like that, or But with with a marriage situation, you're like the guy wants to get married or the girl wants to get married. There's you kind of take away the bad building blocks, those bad blocks. So that's a good asset to have on your side. Does that make sense? Okay. A lot of this is going to sound logical and make sense, but it's good to bring it out and let you hear it and let it bounce around in your brain a little bit.
And a good starting point is if you Google, for Fiaz and I, we did this as well, 100 premarital questions. We did Sheikh Faraz Rabbani's. There's a whole bunch of different scholars that have these. I looked at them even before I was considering him because there's things in there that you understand, like the roles of husband and wife and everything from second wives to health conditions to a whole spectrum of things, and it makes you think about things yourself, like, well, how do I feel about that? You have to have a conversation with yourself, so that's a good starting point if you're wondering, like, how do I do this self-reflection thing? Start with that, and then you'll get a better understanding of yourself, and then you'll be able to, start this.
You don't have to answer all 100. You don't have to be like, she was answering and I was skipping a lot of the questions. I probably skipped all of them. But you don't have to answer all of them. But his are really good, like Sheikh Faraz, they go through an array of like topics, or a huge array of topics. So, you could just pick out a few that are important or, see what the person's answering, see what the person's shying away from, right? It also teaches you something. Okay.
So that's the beginning. So the next is the process, finding a person and going through the process of getting to know a person. In terms of, and then this topic came up of love versus arranged. That was given to us by the organizers. Honestly, I don't even know. Love to me, you don't love somebody until they're your husband. If you love somebody before you marry them, you're pretty much doomed. Because love is something that comes from Allah. And it doesn't come to people who are not married. I will tell you that. What you get before you're married is, lust, infatuation, all kinds of emotions. The day you have your nikah, Allah places love and mercy in your heart. Before that, you don't have it. Trust me, you don't have it. So this whole thing of going against my parents because I love somebody, don't do it. Like, if you think you love that person and that's enough to sustain you, it's not. There's a reason that Allah gives you love and mercy, let me tell you. Because if I loved him, and I do, I'm bananas for this guy, but if I just loved him, it wouldn't get us through our tough times. The mercy that Allah gave us is what allows us to get through our arguments. It's what allows him to, have mercy on me when I'm screaming like a crazy lady and not, scream back at me and be silent. It's mercy. You don't get the barakah. You don't get that if you've started a relationship or you started a marriage that goes against your parents or is based on something that is not, really and truly for the sake of Allah. So the question of love versus arranged, you should love your husband. You should have love in your marriage. Definitely. There's no question. Anybody who's in a loveless marriage, I don't know. I feel sad for you. It's not how it should be. And that's not to say that arranged marriages, cannot lead to love. You can be someone can be suggested to you from your parents. I mean, by all, definitions, Fiaz and I our situation was arranged. The closest which we took was because my parents knew of him and his parents were okay with him talking to me. He was allowed to come to my house. And we were allowed to talk to each other in the living room while my parents were in another room on the same floor. We never spoke on the phone. We never went out. We never did anything else other than talking in person, and it was like marriage-minded conversation. That's a pretty arranged setup. There was no frills. There was no dating. There was no complimenting each other on the way they looked. And it's not to say that we were sitting there stone-faced the whole time, like reading off this list of 100 questions. It was very engaging conversation. It was a very exciting conversation. It was a very stimulating conversation. But
those are arguments you win, guys. Just kidding, you win more.
But it was very focused. It was very focused. We were both there with a goal, which was to see, is this the person for me? And we were allowed to explore that, alhamdulillah, within the freedom and comforts of my own home. So that's what worked for us. I highly, highly suggest that if you're going to be considering a person, that you don't do it over email. It allows time to erase answers and write up answers and redo things that shouldn't be redone. Also, face-to-face, in-person conversation is really the best way. I also highly suggest you don't use the phone. Really, when a man and a woman are alone, shaitan is the third person, and they can have it over the phone as well. There can be idle chit-chat, and especially if you're talking at night, I really don't suggest it. And I also do not suggest meeting in public places, because say things don't work out and someone knew you were talking to that person and saw you in public, you really have to preserve the other person's dignity and privacy, because they could end up, talking to someone else after you, and you wouldn't want to ruin their chances of meeting other people with maybe within the same social circle. So that's a suggestion that I have. I have a lot of points. You can jump in at any point.
The first one, actually, we'll go back to that one later on. The thing about love and arranged, people look at it as two separate entities. Love meaning I went after the person myself. I saw them, I felt something, and I approached that person, and I kind of, that's it, like we had a relationship, then that formulated into, a kind of conversation, and then that formulates into a proposal in a marriage. And then the other one, the arranged is where the parents are involved, and the parents suggest somebody, and then you kind of go from there, right? You're kind of put into this, room, and you get these conversations, and these little, you got to bring up chai. No, I'm just kidding. Right? You got to do all these little things. Okay, now, what I want you to do is put them together, because there's a really, really huge subtopic in this topic. People think, I was told by this kid, and it said it in Arabic, and I couldn't really repeat it, but if it begins in khair, if you want it to end in khair, if you want khair to come out of it, then let it begin on khair. And it was actually, this kid's like a 16-year-old kid that told me this, and I absolutely loved it. And what he was trying to say was, if I'm going to go and date with a girl, if I'm going to go and date, and my parents, and what if I don't know if it's going to work out? Then when I'm 18, I'm going to tell my parents about the girl. What if they don't like her? And they're like, no, yeah.
Could you define what khair is?
Oh, khair is good. Goodness. Khair is goodness. So if you want there to be goodness to come out of it, it has to begin on goodness. You can't plant a rock and expect a watermelon or an orange to come out of it, right? You got to plant something good, and then a nice seed, and then something nice will come out of it, right? So you can't, so what happened was, he's saying, I can't date, you can't date and have these, and have goodness for sure come out. It might, Allahu Alam, But if you begin it on that, if you begin it on, the wrong way, then what happens when you're 40 years old and or 50 years old and you have your 16-year-old son or daughter come to you and say, now, and you got all religious and now they want to date? What if that comes back and punches you in the face? Where are you then? Like, you say, you shouldn't tell your sins at that point. You're not going to tell yourself, oh, well, I did it, okay, yeah, you can go and do it. No, you tell them it's wrong, right? But you have to begin it on good. So allowing your parents into the equation and taking your parents' opinion of the person is like, it's amazing. You have to do it. So you have to combine love with the arranged. You have to bring them together. If you're thinking of somebody, bring it to your parents. Bring it to a guardian. Have that person ascertain as well. Bring it to your siblings. Girls are really good at weeding out other girls. Like, I'm telling you, girls are good at this girl's good or she's not good. They're really, so if you have a sister, you're in an advantage. I didn't have any sisters. So, my mom was like, just tell me in the end what's going on type of thing, right? So if you, tell your sister, for the guys, tell your sister, have your sister meet that sister, and kind of, send some feelers out, right? It's a good way to do things. And same with your parents, let your parents into the equation. This is a very joyful experience for them. Sheikh Abdullah, at every wedding I've ever heard him, do a sermon at, and he's done a lot, and I've been with him around a lot. He always says that, children, don't deprive your parents of the wedding. Don't deprive your parents of a marriage. So always let them be involved. Because there was one of his students who was very close to me, and this guy, he married somebody that his parents didn't want him to marry, and they never even showed up to the wedding. They never show up to the wedding. Until this day, there's a rift with it. Even though he's got children, and that's their grandchildren, and he's still close with his parents, but that girl and the parents are still at huge odds with each other. So try your best to always get your parents involved, to bring that love and that arranged, bring it together. Because it's the love of your parents that you want to love a girl. Like for the guys, you want to know how to love a girl, love your mom. Your mom happy with you, you can make a girl happy. Girls, make your dad happy with you. You make your papa happy, there's no difficulty, and too much more difficulty in making another guy happy.
And if your parents, you have never discussed marriage with them and you're kind of even hesitant to bring up the topic, a good place to start is, remember how we're talking about the self-evaluation, self-reflection? Go to your parents, be like, honestly, I'm just thinking about marriage, my mind is kind of in it, what kind of person do you think I'd be with? Do you think I'm ready? Start that conversation with them before saying, okay, I found somebody, and shocking them and giving them, a coronary. Just have a conversation with them initially. I'm thinking about it, how do you think, what do you think I would be, what kind of wife do you think I would be, or what kind of girl do you think, would fit in this family? Start a dialogue. That's a good way to start, and bring up the conversation slowly and let them know your mind is in it. Because no matter how old you are, when I sat down to my dad, I'm ready to get married, doesn't matter how old I was, he still was like, really? Already? Because you're still their child, right? So it's very difficult for them to get their head around. So
start that process early. Yeah,
start that process early. And this is kind of where I wanted to bring up the whole, so there's different ways to meet people. There's through other people, through your parents, and this kind of goes back to where, girls approaching the brothers. I don't know why brothers these days just can't get it together and approach a sister. I don't know, but I have many, many, many friends who have approached their now husbands and everything's worked out lovely. But I don't know what it is. So
I'm trying to let the Khadijas come out.
I know. So you really have to, if there is somebody that you notice, if there is somebody that you feel, for the right reasons, is something that interests you, don't be ashamed to do it. Don't feel, uneasy. The way I did it, I knew a mutual friend, and I first went to the friend and I asked their opinion of him, and they were raving and yes, you definitely have to, consider it. But they thought I was good too. So she was like, I can approach him for you if you want, because she was close to him. So she went to him and she said, do you know so-and-so? And he was like, I know her father, and she's like, she's interested, and she'd like to, talk to you, and he was kind of like, okay, does her father know? And she was like, yeah, her father knows, and said, okay, I will. And then he then called my parents because he had a relationship with my father. I mean, generally it would be your parents who were calling, but he had a relationship with my father, so he called my dad and asked him for permission to talk to me, and that's kind of how it started. But generally it would be, you know, your parents would call it. But so that's how we went about it, and I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something. Oh, so if someone suggests someone to you, brothers especially, because I understand the issue of, you know, the physical attraction to a person. If he was shown a picture of me, initially, he wouldn't have talked to me. I was not his type. But because he knew the person suggesting us, because he knew my father, and because he didn't see my picture, he decided to have a conversation with me. It's happened to me many times where I've suggested a sister for a brother, or vice versa, and they've said, okay, can I see a picture? And I've shown them a picture, even though I don't like showing pictures because I think it's just a waste of time. And they're like, no, I don't want to have a conversation. At least if someone's suggesting someone to you, like someone close to you that you trust, and is saying, you know, I really think this is a good sister or a good brother, and that you should consider them. Give them one conversation. Don't blow somebody off just like on a picture. First of all, I don't know one picture that I have right now that looks like me right now. Pictures are sometimes glorified and sometimes not. It's very hard to make a decision based on that. So if someone's coming to you with sound reason, saying, you know, I really think this is a good person, give them that, you know, that opportunity. And it just takes one conversation. Sometimes in one conversation you can know, this is not good, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's more. Like in our case, for example, after our first conversation, the first time he came to my house and he left, I said that day I'm going to marry this person. 2 months later, I was like, do you know what you want to do? And he was like, you know what, I'm not ready. He was like, I've asked you all the questions that I can think of. I'm satisfied with your answers, but I'm not ready. And I said, okay, so like we just have to go our separate ways. And we did. We went our separate ways, and we considered other people, and we didn't talk to each other for some time. And then I, of course, approached him again. And then eventually it worked out after that. But like, don't go just based on these things, right? Like, it's important to be attracted to your spouse. Yes, definitely, 100%. But if it's all you're basing it on, I mean, you're starting off on the wrong foot. So that's just an advice and appeal mainly to the brothers, because in my experience of
let it come from me too. Like, it's not only her that's seen, I've seen it too. Like, just where you suggest people, or they're like, you show me email, or you do this brown thing called biodata. You hear this? Like, I know a sister, she lives in Florida. And so she's like, and she's a Muslim lady. And so, I stayed at her house for a bit while I was in Florida, and I was like, she's like, let's get like guys, I got guys and girls down here, you got guys and girls, let's get them to meet. And so I was like, listen, I'll do it through Skype. You got a girl, I got a guy who you think, I'll tell you what he's about, but I don't want to send a picture. Let's just have them meet on Skype and let them see each other and talk. She's like, no, I got to do it through, I got to send mom's picture. I'm like, I don't like to do that, because you judge everything on the picture. Dude, I'm telling you straight up, man. You know that picture in the mirror with the lips, right? That Facebook picture? You're going to see this kind of garbage. You're not seeing the person. You are seeing a picture. Right? The actual definition of a picture is an extrapolation. Like, it's something that's not fully there, but people judge on it. So I wouldn't recommend even asking for a picture. I'd meet. You don't like her, you don't like her attitude, you don't like her personality, that's fine. You could find a nice way to to end the discussion. There's no problem with that. But don't do it based on a picture. Like, I've heard the story from guys, like, I've seen a 10 who the way she eats is like it's something disturbing to me. And this guy, he's a 10, but his body odor, I could smell him from across the room. I'm like, this person out, like, this is what you need to be attuned to. Like, for some people who eat in a weird way, I can't sit across from them. No matter how they look or who they are, I can't do it. But for other people, there's something for me. So you need to take the time to meet with the person, and that's where your due diligence should occur. And this is, unfortunately, I'm only speaking to the people in this room, or we're going to watch that, but you should be okay with someone telling you they're not interested in you. There's nothing wrong with someone not being interested in you. It's okay. Don't take it personal. Don't get all upset about it. Yani the mistake that, and this was a mistake, like her heart was all the way up here and mine was like, I don't even know who you are. So when I rejected her, it hurt. We were talking for 2 minutes and we called it off. At one point, like we called it off and said it's donesy, right? It's not going anywhere. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it back and it went through the process and it ended on khair. That was the du'as and the sujood that we made. But you have to meet a person, do that due diligence. You have to spend that time, meet that person, and don't put all these emotions ahead. Don't put the cart in front of the horse. The cart is the love, the good feelings, the good memories you're going to have. That's the cart. The horse is the marriage. Don't put the cart in front of the horse. The marriage has to come first, all that stuff will come later on. No matter how, honestly, even the day I proposed, to tell you it's funny, I wanted to propose to my wife. I want to be all like white boy and stuff, right? So I wanted to propose to my wife. I wanted to on bended knee. No, I didn't do bended knee, don't worry. I'm just not voiced events on here. But I wanted to propose. So, the day that I actually went over, I'm like, yallah, I don't know. I sat in the car before I went in the house. I'm like, yallah, I don't know. We've been talking for a while. We talked for a year, almost, okay? That's a long time. Don't be crazy like me. But we talked for a while, and I was like, Ya Allah, I'm put in my tongue today what I should do. Just do it for me what is good for me. And then we talked for almost an hour or so, something like that. And then I was like, you know what? I just felt like, I'm happy. I'm content with everything that we talked about. And then I proposed to her. I can tell you what I said. But I proposed to her. I made a proposal, and she accepted it. And she was happy. And then I went to call her parent. We right away, we went, we made wudu, and we made sujood. We prayed right away, before I even told her parents. I'm like, she agreed, I'm like, I was even shocked. I'm like, is she going to say yes?
Yeah. I was waiting for a year. I don't know. I never passed your twice. I'm waiting for my twice.
But it was, so we went and we prayed right away. Just right away, wudu, and we prayed. And then I brought her parents into the room. We told them. And then I went home. I told my parents, right? And they were happy and all this. So, it was all the good stuff. But, what was I trying to say? Cart in front of the horse. I felt so good that I'm like, wow, I see you differently. Now that I'm proposing, I see you completely different. You're a completely different person. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Where were you a year ago? I was right here waiting. I was like, no, you weren't. But right, she was there. But for me, it was something new. Even all that emotion, I was so happy and everything. The after our nikah, the day we had our Katbi Kitab, the day we got married, it's completely different. It's completely different from that. So don't put the cart in front of the horse. The feelings you have, all that, trust me, it'll... Is it true? No. Yusuf. Yeah, Yasmin. It's true, right? You're engaged, you're all happy and stuff like that. But watch on the kitab, it's going to completely be different. That's true love. That'll come down. Alright? So just wait for it, but don't look at a picture and think you're going to get it from that. Alright?
We had all the different topics, but I feel like we might want to go to the process more, right?
Yeah. Okay, the first question was, when are you ready, right? So let's kill this one really quickly. When are you ready to get married? Is there a right age? You tell me. Somebody raise a hand and tell me. This question ain't easy. Yeah, go for it, bro. Anyone. Shubi, you're allowed to answer. When are you ready? And sometimes you don't. You're ready whenever you're ready, whenever it comes. There's no answer to this question. The people who say, I'm going to wait for a job, I need to get a job, I need to get my degree, I need to have money, right? I need to get everything, and then I'm going to get married. Yeah, subhanAllah. There's stories of doctors who go through medical school, and the day they're done with graduate, not the day they're done, but they're working in a job, get into an accident, loses his arm. Can't be a surgeon anymore. Or something happened, the guy get into an accident, he's crippled, he can't. Or the girl, something happens to him, they can no longer work. Yet don't think that a job and all that money is the reason that's going to be provide. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides. Your job is not providing. Your job is not providing for your family. Allah is. You understand? So you can't, don't be all, right? I'm against the philosophy of waiting. I say, look, first year, second year, university, get the ball rolling. Sometimes, I've seen kids in high school, and I actually know this kid in high school, and he's in Hamilton. And he's a convert, actually, subhanAllah. Young guy, I can't say his name, but beautiful guy. And he's 16, 17, he's working on his engagement already. And the girl's not even in here, the girl's in the States. She's not even in Toronto, she's in the States somewhere. I'm just kidding.
If it's coming into your mind, if the topic of marriage is coming into your mind, you're ready.
Yeah.
You're ready to consider, you're ready to start the process, which can be a very long process. I mean, we're both advocates of young marriage, but I was 24 and he was 29. We were not, super duper young. But we're both advocates of young marriage. But if it's in your mind, you're ready to start that process. So you don't need to wait for a milestone or a certain event to happen in your life. You just need to wait for the right person. So if it's in your mind, I mean, marriage is permissible in Islam. It's not something you have to be like, oh my God, I can't think about it. Like, no, not until this. Or I can't talk to my parents about marriage. I'm only 19 or I'm only, 21. No. If it's in your mind and you're thinking about it, have that conversation with your parents. And you don't have to go to your parents and say, I'm ready to get married. I'm just thinking about it. What do you think? Have conversations. Mm-hmm. And maybe your parents will give you insight into marriage that will be like, you know what, I'm not ready for marriage. Like, if that's what marriage is, if this is, you're telling me, my dad said to me, Hanya, I know you. When I came to him at 18 and I was like, I want to be a housewife. He's like, Hanya, I know you. You are not there yet. Please let me tell you. And gave me some really, good advice. And I said, okay, I agree. I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to get married straight out of high school and not go to university. And my dad was...
Damn, girl!
I know, right? And my dad, gave me some really good advice. Alhamdulillah, I listened to him, and I didn't end up, getting married straight out of high school, and I went to university and I finished my education, and that's when I found him. But so don't think of it as a taboo issue. It's not. It's something that's allowed, and it's allowed, at the age of puberty. So I mean, I think we're all there. So
Yeah.
the topic of conversation, if you've gotten to a point where...
One second, the when are you ready thing, I don't want to leave it completely. For those who really, you feel like you have to finish university or you have to reach certain milestones in your life, and okay, that's fine. I'm not saying no to you. I'm not saying don't do those things. Yeah, do those things, but don't there's a difference between a milestone and a dunyawi concept towards rizq. A dunyawi, a worldly concept towards your sustenance, towards what God will provide to you. So that is what I want you to be conscious of. If it's, I need a job so I can support a person, okay, don't worry, there's ways around that. There are, parents support their children, even if you guys living in a basement for a while, dude, there's so many algorithms, it's not even funny how much it could work. Right, there's so many different algorithms, and people don't know. Sometimes they'll get engaged, you'll find a girl who just, all right, let's get engaged now, or sorry, let's do our kitab now, so alhamdulillah, we're halal. No one can say, oh, why is, I'm not going to say two Muslim names, because they might, I don't know. But, why is Adam G and Yasmin, for example, sitting alone? Oh, what are they doing? They're not married yet. This people's shaitan, people in shaitan, they want to, they get involved, they ask these weird questions. But if your kitab is there and your halal, yalla khalas, no one's going to say anything. Finish, no one can say anything. You don't have to live together, nothing like that, but you guys are, everything's halal, you can, there's no shaitan involved, nothing like that, no waswas of people either, right, no waswas of people either. And then, after you're done your graduation, khalas, then you do your wedding or whatever, and you do your wedding, and you go from there, and then you can move in together, get your own place, and
or
go
whatever
from there.
the means are given to you. I mean,
Yeah.
It's really a subhanAllah thing about marriage. When Fiaz and I got married, despite the fact that we both graduated and we were both working, we were at a point in our life where because of life and, the wisdom of Allah, we had got married, paid our first and last month's rent, and we were like, we just signed a year contract or whatever, a lease for an apartment, and we're kind of not paycheck to paycheck, alhamdulillah, but things were tight for us. We couldn't afford a honeymoon, we didn't go on a honeymoon. you know, we were in that position and we had talked about, you know, probably never being able to own a home and not knowing where, you know, our future would be. And like, alhamdulillah, you know, within the 3 years, we're moving into our first home, and inshallah, and like Allah provides from sources you cannot imagine. If you start your marriage off for the sake of Allah, really and truly, you marry someone for the sake of Allah, it comes like pouring in. Like, I don't even know. Even like our wedding was like Baraka Central. Like, we had invited like 600 people. I don't know, there was like 1,000 people there. Everyone was like, I don't know.
950 people showed up. People
crazy.
showed up. They're like, so we heard you're getting married, and you didn't. We know you didn't invite us. We know you didn't invite us, but we heard you're getting married, so we had to come. Like whole families were like, you know, alhamdulillah, fadl, man. My mom cooked for the wedding.
She cooked for like 700 people. Like 1,000 people came. So much food.
Everyone,
like,
alhamdulillah, was still from the. This is from Allah. Yeah, this is from Allah. This is from Allah. This is from Allah. You know, guys, there's a realm that we are conscious of. There's a realm that it doesn't make sense to the regular human eyeball. It takes the Muslim heart to understand it, right? It takes our heart to understand it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're going at it for the right reason, the right purpose, you're making dua to Him, you're being sincere, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide, man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give. But don't stop your du'as after you find the one though. Okay? Don't be like a sujood, tahajjud person, and then like me, and then as soon as you get married, you stop it. You know, don't stop. Well, I'm just kidding. I'm not like that. But don't be that person, right? Because that's something you should also be fearful. You ask for du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're in need, and then when He provides, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. No, we're always in need, so always be conscious of that. Okay?
And in terms of, you know, another thing that comes up with, are you ready for marriage is, you know, do you have the house and the car and can you afford a ring, and can you afford a wedding, and can you afford a honeymoon? These are all things that Islamically you don't need to fulfill the sunnah of getting married. So don't make them like a fard when they're not. And I'm specifically talking to the sisters because, I mean, you expect a brother who is, you know, you want financially stable, and you want a house that's not with your in-laws, and you want, you know, a car, and you want a vacation or a honeymoon and a diamond ring. And these things, I mean, inshallah, once you guys are working and you're paying bills and you're understanding, it's an extremely difficult time to live in. And okay, there are some brothers who can squish it out of themselves and wrangle it all together and get it, but it's really tough. And honestly, like, I can tell you, I didn't get a wedding ring when I was married. We went to a cottage and went fishing for a honeymoon. At that point, when you really, like, when you're a newlywed, it's like the one time where you can let go of those things. Like when you're like 5 years into a marriage or 3 years and you're like, dude, I've like put my work in, like give me a diamond ring now. That's when you need a diamond ring, or that's when you need a vacation to Punta Cana. But in the beginning, like, you're so happy. Like, we used to love just hanging out in our apartment. Like, you don't need those things. Like, finding the right spouse and being with the right spouse is enough. You don't need a ring, and you don't need a big house. I mean, we were living in like a 60-year-old apartment. Some of you guys have been there. You could like smell the cigarette smoke from our neighbors, but like...
Or the weed or something,
or,
you know?
Yeah, it's a great story. We found like our neighbors were like knocked out. It was really scary.
The alarm was going off at 3 o'clock. I'm like, what's going on? So I went up 3 floors, down 3 floors. I found the thing, the apartment there. I'm banging on the door. The guy's not answering. We're getting freaked out. I call security. Midnight guy comes. And then I'm like, Hanya, just stay. Like, she didn't want to stay in the apartment. I'm like, just stay back. Crack open the door, and this guy's like, and just bad story, but it was smoke in the air, and he was passed out from intoxication. I don't know what that has to do with this topic.
So don't make
Find a good apartment.
Yeah. don't make those things apart. And I mean, don't be a martyr. Like, it goes back to like, if you know like you can't live with it. Like, I come from, you know, in my family, all of my cousins who got married had diamond rings, and all of my cousins who got married had, alhamdulillah, mashallah, houses and great honeymoons and everything. And so I kind of, my dad was like, are you sure? Like, you know, what's going on here? And I was like, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm fine with it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And, you know, for Fiaz, it was really important to not do the wedding ring thing and not do a lavish honeymoon. And
The wedding ring.
the wedding ring, especially because of the fact that, you know, he works with a lot of youth and he wanted to prove a point that you don't need these things because financially it's hard. There are people who want to get married and feel like they can't afford to get married, which is a very sad truth. So just don't make those things mandatory because they're not, and
Yeah.
that's what anniversaries are for later on down the road.
And it becomes, it's very hard because you take, like, we are so truly victims of our surroundings almost. So like people will ask, oh, are you gonna do this, or are you gonna do that, or you know, what's gonna happen here, what kind of wedding, are you gonna have a big wedding, you're gonna have this. And sometimes you just ask the question, like I know as people, we just ask the question like, oh, you know, what are you gonna, you know, what are you gonna,
Where are you
like,
going
the
for a
question,
honeymoon?
where are you going for a honeymoon, but we might not understand that person's, either their situation or not. Like even not situation, but when we ask those things, they become important to, not become important,
Place important.
they become a burden on the one being asked. They become a burden on the one being asked. And, you know, subhanAllah, it's more difficult with, you know, some people more than others, but I'm not talking about the dunyawi thing. I'm not talking about the monetary issue. I'm talking of, don't create these artificial things as part of the marriage. They're not. It's not the wedding that's important. It's the marriage that's important. It's not the wedding, it's the marriage. You understand? It's a huge concept there. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, he did this in life. He did it a long time ago. And I know for a fact he probably wouldn't repeat it today. But he said something that stuck with me for a long time. And it's just about walimas and stuff like that. And he goes, you know, he goes, if I was Khalifa, and if you're lucky that I'm not, but if I was a Khalifa, I'd banish all these walimas. Because we have women being raped all over the place, we have mosques being burned, mosques being bombed down, and we're worried about how many sheep are going to be there and how many. He goes, I heard of a wedding where there were 9 belly dancers at this wedding. He says, takbir. You know what takbir? Takbiratul janazah, the funeral prayer. 9 of them, 4 of them, make those takbirs. Because that's what you're calling for when you're doing these things. Takbir, yeah.
Can you just translate this?
Yeah. He goes, walima is the celebration, the party one, right?
Reception.
So the reception, he goes, I would banish these things and not allow them to happen because there are, you know, really bad things that are happening around us, and we're worried about, like, you know, the animals, the sheep, and the wedding, and the decorations, and this and that, and it's so easy to get caught up in. It's so easy to get caught. I got caught up in the decorations. Oh, man, what am I doing? I just wanted to plain, like, just put us in a room and, you know, and done and not do anything big. But then, you know, it ends up being this hangama, as they say in Urdu. I don't know what the word is in Arabic for it, but this madness, this become majnoon, right? They become crazy in this thing. But just remember, it's about the marriage, and that's what it should be. You should always focus on that. So in that preparation time, when you inshallah get to that stage, in that preparation time for the wedding, every night make sujood, every night make your Aisha, you're making all the time, but make extra sujood during that time. Make every night before you pray, make special du'as. Ya Allah, don't let me get caught up in this stuff. Ya Allah, don't get me caught up in competing on a wedding with this person and that person and this person and that. Now I have to compete and make it better and make a bigger wedding, and you know, don't get caught up in that stuff.
Enjoy your process. It's not wrong to enjoy.
Yeah, it's not. You know, it's not. You can have a nice wedding and beautiful things, and you can have a nice ring. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. You can have it. It's beautiful. Do it. Don't make it a competition. Don't make it about that's the end. You got it? So have those nice things. You can do them. Guys willing to buy you a 50 grand ring, yo, do it, man. Get a Ferrari if you can in the deal. Do what you can, inshallah. No problem. But don't make it a burden on each other. All right? Don't do that. If it's beyond the person mean, don't do it. Because you're hurting yourself in the long term. Make sense? All right.